Well, I have a lot to talk about this morning and not a lot of time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time in formalities, and we're going to get right into it. But we are glad to be here. We're glad to experience winter. We haven't seen winter for about 3 years, and so that was one of the reasons we decided to take our furlough over this time. The other reason, we were going to take it earlier in the year, but because of the travel restrictions, we weren't able to, and now is when it worked out to do it anyways. So that worked out well for us. We arrived in the U.S. on Sunday evening 2 weeks ago. We left Africa on a Saturday night and landed in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania Sunday night. And of course, it's always warm in Africa. And Pennsylvania had just gotten some winter weather. It might have even been more wintry than it was here. I'm not sure what it was like here, but they had snow on the ground. We walked out of the airport in Harrisburg, and it was quite chilly. I don't know the temperature, 10 degrees, maybe 15. And there were several inches of snow on the ground, probably almost as much as you have here now. And our children, we had trouble with finding clothes for them because we never have cool weather. The lowest I've seen on a thermometer was 68 degrees. And so we never had a temperature cooler than that, at least not that we saw. And several of our boys were even wearing slippers because they don't have shoes. They don't wear shoes, and they outgrew them. But some friends in Pennsylvania had rounded up some clothes for us, so the van that picked us up was warm, and we survived. But we are enjoying our time here. We were in Pennsylvania a couple days, and then the Tuesday before Christmas, in the evening, we left for Sparta. We got there Wednesday morning. We were there until Wednesday this week, and then we came here and have spent several days with my wife's family here, and we are leaving this evening or this afternoon, going back to Pennsylvania. We'll spend the rest of our furlough there, another about 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do this morning, I'm going to have a very short sermon. It'll be a regular sermon, except for very short, maybe 10 minutes. And then I have a presentation about our work in Ghana. So the sermon I have entitled, "The Tree of Life." And this was actually inspired from a trip, actually, that I took about a year and a half ago in September of 2019. I needed to make a quick trip to the U.S., and so I traveled alone, and I ended up traveling on Emirates Airlines, which is based in Dubai, so I had a layover in Dubai. They changed the schedule after I bought the ticket, and I ended up with a full-day layover in Dubai each way. So on the way to the U.S., I had almost a full day, and on the way back, I had the same thing. And I decided, they treat you well. They give you a hotel, meal vouchers and stuff. It doesn't cost you anything. It's actually kind of fun. And but I decided to only use one of those. And the other, when I went on my way to the U.S., I decided to spend that day doing something else. One of the things in my bucket list was to travel the King Fahd Causeway. Now, most of you have probably never heard of it. It connects the island of Bahrain in the Middle East to Saudi Arabia. And Bahrain is a little island in the Persian Gulf that is right next to Saudi Arabia, about 15 miles offshore. And back in the mid-'80s, they built a bridge. They call it a causeway, the King Fahd Causeway. They built a bridge to connect the country of Bahrain to Saudi Arabia. Now, Bahrain is very small. You probably maybe you've never heard of it, but is very wealthy because of oil. It's just a big desert. Well, it's not big. The land area is about 275 square miles, something like that. To give you a reference, Sawyer County is about 1,300 square miles. So the country of Bahrain is 1/5 the size of Sawyer County. It's very small, but very wealthy from oil. And it's just a big desert. They have basically one tourist attraction in the whole country. And I had a little time, so I went to see it. And that tourist attraction is called the Tree of Life. Now, the reason it's called that is because it is by itself in the middle of it. It's a big tree. It's about 30 feet tall. It's not tall, but it's very, very spread out. And I did have time to go see it before I left. And the reason it's called the Tree of Life is because the scientists are baffled as to how it survives. They did some studying and figured out it was probably planted in the late 1500s, so it's 450 about years old. And it's thriving there. There's hardly even any vegetation around it, not even really grass or brush like you might see in a desert. Just this big tree called the tree of life. And to this day, scientists have been studying it for probably hundreds of years. And to this day, they have no idea how it survives. The roots go deep, and they say it might go deep enough to get water, but that doesn't seem likely. There are a lot of various opinions how it survives, but again, nothing at this point is confirmed. And so it has become a tourist attraction. And now I don't think it looks anything like the tree of life that we read about in Genesis. But the tree is a symbol of life, and it's a symbol of vitality. It's a symbol of strength. A tree today is the largest and oldest living organisms that exist. I don't know if there are any trees bigger than the redwoods in California, but they are huge, and they're old. Well, there might be some other trees older, but there aren't any that are bigger. And so because of the tree and its qualities, it has had a mysterious, I don't know if you call it mysterious, maybe mysterious, and awe for all cultures. And it's a place where we gather, especially in the summertime when the sun is shining. People around the world gather under trees. Now here in the north, it doesn't get quite so hot, and the sun doesn't shine so intently, but it's still on a hot summer day. When you're outside, you need a little relief, you will still look for a tree to sit under, especially here where it's easy to find a tree. And we find that in Africa, trees are very important. Meetings are held under trees. In the Bible, we read about trees that were used for meeting places or gathering places or whatever. Largely because in the Middle East, they do have somewhat of a hot, dry climate, and the sun, they need to stay out of the sun when they could. And the trees, under trees, are places where judges decided cases, where they made decisions, who was right, who was wrong, or whatever. And there were trees that were held as places of worship. And some of the pictures that I'll show you here soon, you'll see how a tree in Africa actually has more importance in a way than a tree here. Now, I grew up here. I was born in Ladysmith, and I lived here for most of my school years, basically, from the time I was about 5 until I was 17. And so I'm used to trees, and I love trees. I was just telling one of my boys, just in the last couple of days we were up here, I said one of the things I missed moving away from Hayward was the trees, and I still think about it when I come back. I love it. My dad was also a logger, so I was in the woods a lot. And the other thing I missed was the lakes. Or I still do, actually. Sparta has a little bit of lakes and some trees, but not as much as here. Lancaster County has even less than Sparta does, where I've lived, the place I've lived since I've been here. And so the tree is something that I'm sure we all appreciate it. Now, some of you might like the flat open, you might like the land out west, Nebraska, or even Iowa, western Iowa, where it's big farmland. Some of you might like that, but I think everybody, to a point, has an attraction to a tree, especially if there aren't many around. So in Genesis, we read about two trees, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve were told specifically, leave one of them alone. They were told which one, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They were to leave it alone. However, as far as we know, they were allowed to eat from the tree of life. Now, did either of those trees have better fruit than the other trees? We don't know that. But we do know that those two were specifically mentioned. And we know that the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the restriction was eventually their downfall. And that is where they failed the test that God set out for them. And because they failed the test that had to do with the tree, they were kicked out of the garden. And then a lot of things came into the world. Sin entered the world at that point. And a lot of things that we deal with today are because of that. And death is now a reality because of sin related to the tree. In Galatians 3, verse 13, it says, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, Cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. And there is where probably the the most significant tree to a Christian is the tree that Jesus hung and died on. And sin entered the world because of a tree, or because of something that involved, the tree was involved, is how sin came into the world back in the Garden of Eden, several thousand years before Christ died on the tree. So the tree brought sin into the world, or was involved in it. The tree brought salvation, and was a very significant part of that, through the cross of Calvary. And Jesus, through that tree, restores us to life. The last chapter in the Bible, Revelation 22, it brings us back to the beginning and to what awaits those of us who are in Jesus. The tree is restored. Revelation 22, verse 1 and 2 says, "And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." That's an interesting little note about this tree. Bears 12 manner of fruit. Did you ever see a tree that bore more than one? Now, when we moved to Sparta, the place that my parents bought was a small apple orchard, and there was one tree there that had one branch. I still remember, I was younger, but I remember the man that was selling it to us. He was showing it to us. He said, "Now look at that branch." He said, "That is a different species of apple." And years before, somebody had grafted in a branch of a different type of apple tree. And so we had to be careful. We had to take care when we picked it that we kept those separate, because out of the same tree was two different kinds of fruit. And I've actually heard where people can do a different type of fruit, graft a branch in. I've never seen it, but you can do something like graft a peach branch into an apple tree or something and get apples and peaches off the same tree. But my personal experience is with two different kinds of apples. This tree has 12 manner of fruit. And also yielded her fruit every month. Trees are seasonal, usually, at least in the north, where we have significant climate change, once a year. And here there were 12 harvests a year. And so this is not just any tree; it's a spectacular tree. So let's remember the tree. The tree was mankind's downfall. The tree later restored mankind to Christ through salvation. And even be grateful for the trees that you experience here as you live in northern Wisconsin. I know a lot of you also make a living with trees, and that's what my dad did when we lived here. And so let's be grateful for what we have. And when you see a tree, which is all the time, anytime you look outside, think about the tree that saved us, that was involved in Christ dying on the cross for us. Okay, let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. We thank you, Lord, for your provisions for us. Lord, we thank you for the tree that was a part of the plan of our salvation. We pray, Lord, that we'd be grateful for what Christ has done for us. We pray, Lord, that we would take this, that we would not reject it. And we pray, Lord, that each one of us could be restored to you, that we would give our lives to you. We pray, Lord, that you would be with us as we go about our lives, that we would be testimonies for you. We pray that you would guide and direct us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Okay, now we are going to move into the presentation. And I think probably most of you know that we have been in Ghana and West Africa the last couple of years. And as I go through, I have a bunch of pictures. I know I've seen presentations where you see a few pictures and a lot of talking. I have mostly pictures. I have about 30 minutes, and I have about 80 pictures, so that gives me an average of around 20 seconds per picture. I'm going to do the best I can. Some I'll need a little more time on, others I'll go a little bit quicker. And so what we are doing there, now this can be a little confusing, and I'll get to it in a little bit, but we are serving under Pole Ministries, which is based in Myerstown, Pennsylvania, and some of the board members are some of Claire's cronies. Leonard Martin, I'll just mention a few names, Leonard Martin, Paul Zimmerman from the Paul B. Zimmerman family, Barry Burkholder, Barry's Paint Shop. There's Roger Burkholder, I don't know how many of these you know, and there are a number of others. And anyways, they originally, well, I'll just go through a few pictures here and we'll get to it. So this is our backyard, and the program I work under is Salt to Ghana, and that is actually a CAM, or Christian Aid Ministries based program. Anyways, this is our backyard. This picture was taken from the back porch of our house. This is the Atlantic Ocean. If you look, the coastline in West Africa runs east and west, so this is looking about due south. And if you were going to get in a boat and head south, you would not see land until you got to Antarctica, about 5,000 miles away. This is when our family, we left at the end of November 2 years ago, and this is when we were packed up to leave. This girl here, her name is Carissa, and she is from our church at Pleasant Valley. She went with us to teach school, to teach our children. And so there we were just ready to leave for the airport. Claire and Ruthie, another thing of note here, this is the house of James and Janie Martin. I guess you know them. Used to go to church with them, I think. We had to move out of the house we were living in about a week before we left, and so we stayed with them for a week. And here we're just ready to leave for the airport. Now this was actually, there's nothing significant about this, except I wanted to point out this man right here. This was when we were checking in for our flight at Washington Dulles, and we had 11 of us. We had about 20 huge pieces of luggage, and we were checking in. This man is a United Airlines representative or employee, and he found out what we were going for, and he did a lot of work. It took a long time to get us all checked in, and then when we were done and ready to head for security, he came back and he handed me something, and here it was a bunch of cash. And I don't know where he got it. I don't know if it was out of his own pocket. I don't know if he went around and took up a collection. And I don't remember how much it was, but I'm thinking it was something like $150. It was a fairly significant amount. And he said something like, "God bless you as you go." And so I was blessed by that man there. This was just our layover. We flew from Washington Dulles to Brussels, Belgium, and then we had a flight from there down to Accra. Our children, after a red-eye flight, we're waiting for the next one. This is our place from the road. I took this is actually a fairly recent picture. Anna, our daughter, was standing out front there. This is our house and the Salt office buildings. The left, about a third of it, is the business's offices, and then we live in this part on the right. And then it's actually facing the same direction as the ocean picture, but you'd have to be on the other side of the house and look in the same direction. That's where the ocean is. You see the tops of the coconut trees there. This was taken soon after we arrived. It's just all of our family lined up in front of the house. And this is down by the ocean, right off of our backyard. It's actually not a beach there. It's rocks, and we can't swim there. They say there are dangerous currents there. I'm guessing it's from the rocks that cause it, but there are always waves crashing. We hear them even when I'm in bed at night with the air conditioner going in our room. I can hear the waves crashing. It's just a constant sound. Now I'll get into Salt to Ghana, which is our work. And I call it work because that's what I do, and it is somewhat of a business. So here I want to explain the differences between Palm Ministries, Salt, the CAM program, and the relationship. A lot of people are confused by this. So Palm Ministries, I mentioned, is a mission they started sometime around 2013 or 14, and they started, they got involved with a palm press. There are a lot of palm trees there, and they saw a press out in a village that presses palm fruit. The problem they have is the farmers that raise the palm nuts they're kind of taken advantage of by the big oil companies. And so they decided to start something, and they took over that palm press, and then they later upgraded better equipment, and they they have a couple main focuses. One is to treat the farmers fairly, which is something that doesn't happen by the regular companies there that buy their nuts, their palm nuts. The other thing they do is to be a testimony to the employees of the palm factory. They have around 10 employees now, and they have weekly Bible studies with them, and there's constant what do you want to call it, coaching or kind of working alongside them. If they have problems, they tend to be drawn to the Americans. They think we have all the answers. We don't, but they think that. But it does give us an opportunity to witness to them and to help them. And so that's what Palm Ministries does. SALT is a Christian Aid Ministries program, and if you look on their website, you can find out more about it. They have several different departments. One is the microfinance, which is what I do. They also have an Agra Plus, which they work with farmers, and that's big, especially in Haiti. And then they also have a VOTEC, which we also have there in Ghana, where they take and have actually a shop where they do different projects. Some might have welding, some have mechanics. Ours has mechanics, and they teach locals how to teach them a trade. In this case, working on equipment and vehicles. So I work in the microfinance, and that's also, you are Bronson, right? Okay. Bronson Charity Yoder, they are in Myanmar and working at something similar. So he's involved in much the same thing here, what I'm talking about. We have loans and we have savings. There are two different programs. The one is loans. It's actually CAM's money that they provide for us, and we give the money to the locals on a loan basis. It's not a gift. It's a loan. They're expected to pay it back. They pay interest, and they're on 6-month cycles. And so we give them some money, and within 6 months they pay it back. There's a very set schedule. Every 2 weeks there's a repayment meeting. And the primary reason for that is in those repayment meetings there is a Bible lesson taught. And they learn different things. There's a book that Cam wrote, that Cam provided, or provides us, that has a lot of good, solid biblical teaching, something foreign to most of them. Yeah, literally foreign. And it has things on finances, because, what I tell clients when I speak to them, I say, finances are very important. The Bible talks more about money than it talks about any other single subject, including salvation. Now, that doesn't mean money is more important than salvation. It's not, obviously. But it does tell us that money is very important. And how we handle our money is an indication of who we are as a person. And so they learn business. They learn just money, like how to save it, how to handle it. And they also learn other Bible lessons. I'll just quick tell one client story. There was a couple, their cohabitating is very common, and there was a couple that joined the program, and they sat under these regular Bible lessons, and they were convicted. They had lived together for something like 13 years and raised a family. They had a number of children. They were living as husband and wife, but they weren't married, which is quite common there. And anyways, they were convicted through the Bible teaching by our facilitator, and they decided that they need to get married, and so they did, in a very short time. Of course, there wasn't a lot to it because they already had their home and their businesses, whatever. But anyways, we were blessed by stories like that. That is the reason we are there, and that is what CAM says. They say, we're there to teach the Bible, to teach life lessons. And the other thing is the loans. The loans go almost all are all for small businesses. They can't get a loan to build a house or something. It is for a business, and it's to run to help them better their lives. And it gives them the opportunity. They don't have the opportunity to walk into a bank like we do and get a loan. They can't do it. It's not available to them. And you know how any of you that are involved in business, you know that it takes money to make money. You can't get something going if you don't have anything. And so this gives them an opportunity. Most of them do very well. We do have a few failures, but for the most part, they do very well. Our loan repayment rate is one that would make any Western bank envious. It's very good. It changes. We update every month. And I didn't check the most recent one, but it's in the high 90% of the repayment rate, so it's very good. The savings here is a little bit different, and that's more, I believe, what Bronson's involved in, or what they're working at. That is not, they're not using our money. We just provide an avenue for them to save. They come, they have weekly or every 2 weeks they have meetings, and they come and they put in whatever they can spare. Some weeks it might be nothing. The next week it might be a lot. And then they keep track of who contributed what. Different groups do different things with it. Some will actually loan it out to themselves, and that way they can earn some revenue on it with interest. And then at the end of the cycle, however long they set it for, they will, open the box, and they will distribute, along with any earnings, whatever they have coming, based on how much they have contributed over the cycle. And it's inspiring. We do have a small savings. Most of the CAM's microfinance around the world is savings. We are one of 2 countries that has loans. The other one's in Nicaragua. However, SALT is in 16 or 18 countries. The others would all have only savings. And anyway, it's inspiring when we go to those, we call them the payday, when they open the box and distribute the money. These people are so proud of what they have done, and we hear a lot of testimonies. They say, I tried saving, I'd put it in a can in my house, but then the next week I needed it, so I'd go get it out. They need something where they do not have access to it. And so that's inspiring, seeing things like that, those kinds of stories. This was taken just a few days after we arrived. We have a whole team of local staff, native staff, and they actually do the day-to-day business, running the program. I actually do very little of that. I'm basically there as an administrator. I sign the checks. My name's on the account. I go to the bank and withdraw the money that goes out for loans, things like that. But I don't do the actual day-to-day operation. That's all handled by native staff. Some of them are field staff. We have altogether 7 field officers that spend their time out meeting groups for the paydays. Not the paydays, the repayment meetings. Every 2 weeks, they have to meet every client. We have about 2,500 loan clients and about 400 savings clients. So we have close to 3,000 clients altogether. And they're in an area spanning about a 3-hour drive around us. So some of these, there's a lot of office work that needs done. About 6 or 8 of them are office staff. The rest would be field staff. This is some of the office staff. One of the things they like is whenever they have a birthday, my wife bakes a cake and puts their name on it. It says, "Happy birthday, Joyce." This lady right here, she's office staff. Her name is Joyce. And then my wife brings it over, and they get some, what they call minerals, soda. That's what they call it. If they want minerals, they want some Coke or 7-Up. So it's always a big deal. Of course, with about, 8 or 10 office staff, we have that many birthdays a year. So this happens roughly once a month. This is a pavilion in front of our place. Every Monday morning, we have a staff meeting. We have a Bible lesson, and then we do any business that needs done. When everybody's there, all the office staff are there, all the office staff, the field staff, and me. One of the things we found there, when you take pictures in the shade like that, and with the people being black, it is very hard to see them. That's often what you see, just a silhouette. And the motorcycles are there. Our office staff, our field, well, actually almost everybody, they drive motorcycle. Very few of them actually have a driver's license to drive a car. Most of them, the men anyways, have a motorcycle license, so that's what they drive. This is one of the examples of a venue. Now, when I say a venue, it's where we go, where we meet the clients. We have a whole different range of places we meet. I mostly meet the clients when we go to the disbursements, which is where we hand out the new loan. So basically, we'll hand out the loan, they'll pay it back in 6 months, and then usually they'll be issued another loan. And so I meet every client about twice a year. And so that's about the only time when I see them. That's one of my tasks, and it's actually stipulated by CAM, is that I go to the disbursements, and I actually physically hand the client the envelope with the money in it. And we meet in any kind of place. This is a church building. This is way back in a village, a long, hard drive, but a new building. I'm not sure if it's finished. I'm sure they're using it. You can see the speakers in the back there. This is another venue. This is a youth group, and this is actually in our backyard. We have a local group, a youth savings group, and you can see my wife and Anna went to join them one meeting. A couple of my children were part of it. Rachel's there, Ben's there, and is that Joey? There's another one somewhere. So this is another venue just out under the trees. These are actually coconut trees. We get fresh coconuts from there. Now this is the same group, and this is also in our yard. One time during the meeting, it started raining, and so they quickly went and piled into the pavilion. Yeah, they hardly fit, but they got under it. This is another venue. Now this was actually a savings group payday when they all came when we opened the box and distributed the money. And I'm usually at those. I go to most of those. And they made a big deal if they had a party. See the soda can there. In that plastic bag is a rice dinner. And they rented the tents. Here's another venue. Nothing much special about this. It's just another one outside under a tree. Except one thing different with this, Joey and Rachel, two of my children, went along with us. And so they went, there weren't enough chairs for them to sit. This lady here is who I work with on the field. She is our credit officer. She's office staff, but she goes on disbursements as well. It's usually her and I, and sometimes somebody else as well. And anyways, Rachel and Joey went with us at one day, and the clients wanted them to sit with them, and so they did. And this lady here, she asked if she could rub Rachel's arm. She just wanted to feel white skin, I guess. I don't know. See if it felt different, but I think it felt pretty much the same. Here's just another picture, another meeting place under a tree, another group of clients. This was also another savings group payday. They were under this pavilion. One of the things I always think about growing up in the north when I see their pavilions, I always think about the snow load. Of course, it's not an issue there. This one here, I think a couple snowflakes would have that thing on the ground. But of course, it doesn't matter there. Here, we were meeting, this was a disbursement. We're actually meeting in a schoolroom. This is a regular public school. These clients here are mostly Muslim. We have, I think, around 25% Muslim clients. This was a venue. This was before the meeting started, but it's a church. It's made out of, that's actually mud. They make some kind of bricks out of mud, but they don't last. You see a lot of mud buildings where it's eventually washed away. Anyways, we were there. You can see it's a church. They have, I think it's Pentecostal. They have drums in the back. We got there early, and we were waiting before the meeting was scheduled. We were waiting for them, and this chicken came walking across right through the church auditorium. This is an example of just another disbursement. Here, this is our staff, SALT staff. This lady is a client. About 90% of our clients are women. We're trying to change that somewhat, but that's just how it is. The women, they need to have a supplemented income. Their husbands probably have other jobs. Maybe they're taxi drivers, or they might be farmers or something like that. So a lot of women will have a job, or they actually have a business where they might have a road stand where they might sell food, or they might sell provisions. They might have a small store in town. And so 85 to 90% of the clients, as I said, are women. Here she is signing the contract. We do print up a regular contract. It's from software that CAM provides for us. that she is receiving the money. This one here shows a little bit better. This is the same venue as that first one I showed you. They're actually, most of our clients are illiterate. Something like probably 3/4 of them cannot read or write. And so obviously they can't sign the contract. And, but they do need to for legal reasons, and also it's required by the authorities in Ghana that they do sign a contract. Most of them can't. And so we have an ink pad. I got the wrong button here. We have an ink pad where they'll use their fingerprint, and that's what they use to sign. That's very common. If you go into a bank, or just a regular bank in Ghana, you will see clients in there using fingerprints or thumbprints because they can't sign their name. This was that same venue, and this summer when school was out, my wife went along to some of the disbursements, and she would like to find a baby to hold, so she's holding the client's baby there during the meeting. Now this is one. This was a client's daughter. There are a lot of babies and children at these meetings, and she just came up to me and wanted to sit in my. She just came up to me and crawled in my lap. So I took a selfie, and we were good to go. This is a meeting that I had. It's more of a meeting that was put on by the Bank of Ghana, which is the Financial Administration Authority. It'd be similar to the FDIC or something in the U.S. And they mandate that the directors of these microfinance businesses go to occasional meetings. This is in Accra, in the capital. And this man here is the instructor. And these people here, most of them would be in a similar position as me, some kind of a director of some kind of a finance program. This is actually this was in 2019. It was a graduation. I had taken a full course, and then they presented diplomas to us. My wife was there. She snapped this picture. This man here is actually a German man. There was a German financial organization that assisted the entity in Ghana that did it, and so a German man there presented my diploma. This is at the same venue, the awards dinner, and my wife went along and found a baby to hold. This was at a savings payday meeting. This lady here is our staff. She's office staff, and she is a journalist. She actually is a professional journalist. She has a degree in journalism, and she used to work for, I believe it's a television station before she came to SALT. And so she was interviewing the client. The client there is holding a phone to record, just had an audio recorder on. That's why she's holding it up like that to record what she's saying. Okay, now that's pretty much the end of our work there. Now I'm going to get into our church life, our social life, and then just some other things, just general life in Africa. So this was in 2019 when we had a lot more missionaries there. Earlier this year during the lockdown, in May or June, there were a couple of them that their terms were ending, and there were some new ones going to come and replace them. Well, obviously in May, June, they couldn't travel. That wasn't possible. The borders were closed. And so the ones that were there that were going to return to the U.S., they ended up leaving on repatriation flights, which were special government-arranged flights. And then the others couldn't come until just about 2 weeks ago. So it was just we had a very skeleton crew there for a while, from about May until December. And anyways, this is just during a regular Sunday morning church service. It's just a pavilion here. This is actually on the grounds of Living Hope, which is a mission that was started by Nelson Coblentz, the Gospel Express Nelson Coblentz. I don't know, maybe some of you remember a number of years ago, he went to Ghana for a while, and they have an orphanage and a school, and this building it's right nearby, about a mile away from our house. And so anyways, we use one of their buildings to hold church services. This was just after church one Sunday morning when we had a fellowship meal. We were just waiting on it to be ready. This is one Sunday morning. This was actually more recent. We got to church a little bit early, and a couple of our boys and a couple of the native boys there were just standing around chatting before church. Here was after church. They're playing in a tree, waiting until it's time to go home. This was during the lockdown this summer when we were not allowed to have church. From about mid-March until about September 1st, we could not have church. We're not allowed to. And so what we did most of that time was we met with just the Americans in our house. And that's where we never missed a Sunday, but we met in our house. The one Sunday morning, we decided to invite the village children, and we had a children's class. Instead of a regular service, we had a children's class out in our backyard. So we got some mats on the ground, and it's interesting seeing how they're used to taking their shoes off or their slippers when they get to the door. So here they kicked them off at the edge of the mats there. This is Earl Shirk. He was actually there serving with Living Hope, the Gospel Express mission, but he is from our church in Pennsylvania, so we know them well. And they would come to church most of the time when they weren't invited to another one. And so here Earl is leading the singing, then Kenny, one of the other missionaries there, was going to have a Bible lesson for the children. This is when we had church inside our house. This is just a average snapshot one Sunday morning. Now we'll get into our family and social life. This ministry that we have kind of evolved. Our family's personal ministry kind of evolved naturally. And but most of what I would say our family's personal ministry is the children. This is the village that we live in, or we live on the edge of it. And the children, we don't know all the reasons, but they are drawn to us. And I think part of it is their family lives are completely different than ours. They don't get affection or love. I don't know if I should say they don't get love. I think they do, but it's not displayed. Their parents don't watch them together. It looks like the parents just take care of the necessary needs, and that's pretty much it. You don't see them playing with them or just interacting with them. It's very, very uncommon. They do what needs to be done to keep them alive, basically, but little else. And of course, especially we plain people, are not used to that. We're used to, providing a loving, warm, inviting home for our children. And anyways, so the children there are very much drawn to mostly my wife. She does an excellent job of being a mother to about 60 of the village children. There's just a few of them. Every once in a while she'll hand out they'll come to our place about 3 evenings a week. They come to our place to play. We have some soccer nets. We have a volleyball net. It's not always up. And or they'll just play, run around, whatever. Ripsticks. We wear out ripsticks a lot. We took a bunch and they learned to ride them. They got very good at it. And anyways, they wear out quickly. And anyways, and here every once in a while, when it's time for them to go home, she'll hand out some kind of a snack, usually a piece of cake or something. This is just another snapshot of some children looking at something. I'm not even sure what they were doing. My wife took most of these pictures. This one here, my wife and I were in town. We were at the market, and anyways, I was waiting. My wife went inside. There's a doorway over here. She went inside to get something, and I decided to just wait for her out there, and I was just standing there. And these two little girls, they came up to me, and they were kind of giggling, and they started rubbing my arm. It's something about white skin. I don't know if they think it feels different or what, but it's interesting. And they were just laughing. They didn't know English, and I couldn't really talk to them. And so anyways, and then when my wife came, this is actually somewhat of a posed picture, but it's what we were doing before she came out there. We were just comparing our skin there. This is just Anna standing out on the rocks down by the ocean. This would have been Thanksgiving a year ago. It's Thanksgiving of 2019. The American missionaries there, we all got together and had a Thanksgiving feast. This was after church one Sunday morning when Merlin Raymer, he's from Missouri. He's not there anymore. He's back in Missouri. They invite us over to their place for Sunday dinner. He was getting it ready. These are some school supplies that actually our church in Pennsylvania in the Summer Bible School of 2019, they gave their offering money for school supplies for our village children. So they sent, it ended up being enough for about $15 for about 80 children, so it was $1,200 or so. I don't remember the exact numbers. So we went to town and we cleaned out some places that sold backpacks, and they're also full of necessary school supplies. And then we arranged a day when the children would come, and then we distributed them. Here we were gathering them. I had a little talk with them, and then we handed them out. It was very chaotic. This girl here, I just asked her to pose with her backpack. You can see the Apple logo there with a little extra bite taken out of it. You see a lot of fake stuff like that there. I guess there are no legal repercussions, nothing that Apple or any other company can do about it. This girl here, her name is Olivia, and her dad actually works for Paul Ministries. He's a Paul Ministries employee, and he also attends church with us regularly. This was cookout or something we were having. This over at the Living Hope grounds. And Kenny was just giving the missionary children a tractor ride. Hannah, this lady here, is our, well, we call her our maid. She's our she comes full-time Monday to Friday while my wife is teaching school. And she takes care of the house, she does laundry, she makes dinner, and she takes care of Anna and Jimmy when he's not in school. And here, Hannah was getting fish. That's a big fish, getting it ready for lunch, and Anna was watching her. Here she was doing some scrubbing, some laundry, and Jimmy and Anna were out there helping her, whatever they were doing. This was a walk that we took one Sunday afternoon, and Matthew was hot, and so he just sat down on the roadside for a little rest. We were at a KFC. There are several KFCs in Ghana. We were at one. There are none near our house. We have to travel for it, but we were in the city where this is. And my wife quickly snapped this picture. We realized later how good of a picture it is. Anna was using her fries to eat her coleslaw. The menu is very similar to the KFCs here. This one here, we're out at the Palm Factory getting a house ready for the missionaries coming, and it started raining while Jimmy was outside, and he didn't have an umbrella, and so he improvised. Most of you know who this is. My parents, they were over to visit us in September a year ago, September of 2019. They were with us for about a week. This is a coconut, and that's something you see a lot there. We have these trees here are coconut trees, and so we can harvest them as they're ready. And then you whack the top off and drink the coconut water. It's actually very good. It's sweet. And so my mom and dad were sampling that. There's my wife with her Lancaster County clothesline. The American director who lived there before we did was from Pennsylvania, from Lebanon County, and he put up that clothesline. My wife is utilizing it. We were at a chicken fast food place, and Tim was showing off the sandwich he got. It was a big one. There was just Anna having a stare down with the dog. Not really sure what was going on there. Just in our backyard. Our family spent a couple days in Accra here. A couple months ago, we had some business to do, and we were at a store and we found some strawberry ice cream, so we took it back to the guest house we were staying at. Jimmy and Anna were enjoying that. Here's an aerial photo of our compound. This is a fence along the front. That road where I took one of the early pictures would be just down here. This is our house and the office. So if there was a line, kind of far away to do this steadily, right up about here, this side is the offices and this is our house. And there's our backyard, the pavilion here, the coconut trees, and then the ocean there. Tim our son has a drone, and so he got a few good aerial shots. This is down towards Elmina, which is a town that is actually our address. Right here, you can't see the detail here, but is the Elmina Castle. Now that is where the castle where the slaves were processed back in the slave trade. If you go, that's about maybe 2 miles away, maybe not that far. It's not very far. We can see it. We can go to our backyard and we can see it easily. So that's one of them. Then if you go just a few miles the other way, if you turn around the other way, in the Cape Coast Castle is another one. They're just maybe 5 miles apart from each other. And these are a couple of the busiest slave trade ports back during the slave days. They would gather people from all over West Africa. They would bring them to these ports. This one here was actually built before the slave trade. It's built for commodities. And then when the slave trade came along, I guess it was more lucrative, and so they renovated it to process slaves. The one, the other direction, the Cape Coast one, was built for slave trade. It was built, designed around it. Both of them built, I don't remember the years, 1500, 1600, something like that. So they're several hundred years old. And we've toured both of them, and if you ever come, you should. It's very sobering what went on during that time, very cruel. This is just a drive along the road to Cape Coast, just the ocean right there, the palm trees, very beautiful drive. This is an aerial shot of the children playing in our backyard. This is one of our boys who just kicked the ball, the soccer ball. Soccer's a big thing there. That's what the children know. My wife took this picture, just her coffee cup on the wall, out looking over the ocean. It's very, very fascinating watching when a big wave comes along, they splash up over the rocks, and yeah, we just love it. We're blessed to live in one of the most beautiful places on earth, and it gets a place where we almost take it for granted. If that location was in a Western country, if it was in the coast in California or Oregon or something, you'd probably have to pay millions to to buy that place. And here we're just privileged to live there at no cost to us. This is just an example of a road. It's actually a lot worse than it looks. It was raining. It takes a four-wheel drive to go on this road. It actually wasn't too rough. A lot of them are a lot rougher than this, but it was raining. It was like driving on ice. Here was a road. This is our road here. It looks like it's blocked, but it kind of is. But it kind of reminds me if you put your finger in a container of water, a sink or something, and you move it along, the water will just kind of move out of the way and move around it, you know? That's kind of how the traffic does. You just ease through and it'll kind of flow around you, you'll make it through. And we did. Here's just a picture of traffic and markets, vendors in Accra, the capital city. And we have a number of truck drivers here. You guys would love to see what goes on in Ghana. This truck here, and you can't see it real well, but this truck has blocks and jacks along here. See, it's leaning. They load them very heavy and very high. And so any little problem with the suspension on one side, and they're laying on their sides. Fortunately, they caught this one before it went over. It was like that for a while, then eventually it was gone. It's not too far from our place. I'm not sure what happened to it eventually. But anyways, they have it blocked up there so the thing won't roll over. Here was a load that I followed coming down the road one time. It's a load of bicycles. And I stayed behind him as long as I could. I was actually kind of hoping to see something, but I didn't. I stayed close enough so I could see him, but far enough back so I could avoid it if something went wrong there. It didn't go, but the last I saw him, he was at a police checkpoint arguing with the police. So I'm not sure what happened. What I'm guessing happened, what normally happens is you pay the policeman a little bit and then you're free to go. I'm guessing that's what happened here, but I don't know. Okay, this is one other kind of a niche thing, something that I found fascinating. Ghana is a very Christian nation, at least nominally. They call themselves Christians. If you ask the average Ghanaian, if they're not Muslim, they'll probably tell you they're Christians. And you see that in small businesses and names. You'll see strange names, and I'll show you a few here that I got pictures of, like God is Love Material Shop, or you might be something like Jesus Saves Mechanic Shop, or something like that. Sometimes I think they don't really know what it means. Another problem we have in Ghana is typos. English is the common, the main language there, but most people speak another language. But almost everybody knows English, and most signs are in English. So this is M for Christ Beauty Saloon. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be salon. It's supposed to have one O. Just one that I found there was very fascinating. Here, this one's a little bit dark. Blessing Bent's Fitting Shop. I'm not even sure what it is. I even looked at the pictures and I wasn't sure what it is. But they got something a little ecclesiastical in there. This one here, Thy Grace, let me zoom in. Thy Grace, Locals and Pub. Some of them are very interesting, what the business is. Down here at the bottom it says Taste of Heaven. Here's one, God is Good, Refrigeration Enterprise. These are just along the road, just signs you'll see anywhere. This one here, I have zoomed in here. This is actually right up the road from our place. Shining Star, supposed to be Shining Star Lotteries. This one, Try Jesus Multimedia. Now, what this is it's in here, and they actually do passport photos. That's what they're advertising here, and our family actually got passport photos taken there. Try Jesus Multimedia. Now, this one here, I'll zoom in here. This one is, of all the ones I've seen, this is by far my favorite. There is Hope Mechanic Shop. Now, what's interesting about that, if you would see A, the state of the vehicles, and B, the skill of the mechanics, you would say that there is not much hope. But anyways, that's the name of the business. So out of all the ones I've seen, that one's easily my favorite. There is Hope Mechanic Shop. This is the mechanic shop. This is his building. It is surprising what they can get done there. However, things like skills, they don't have an opportunity to learn. I talked a little bit about our Votech shop that we have there. That is another SALT program that Kenny Zeizet is running. He's constantly frustrated by things like the work ethic, they're just not taught to do things thoroughly, do them properly, do them methodically. I'll just give one quick example. And I'll try to make it simple enough so most of you, even if you're not mechanics, you'll understand. Caleb will for sure get this, and many of others of you understand mechanics. So they had this diesel engine out of a van that they had apart, and they put it together, and they put it in the van. It was on the shop floor. They put it in the van. They went to start it. It wouldn't start. And so Kenny must have been involved in something else. He was letting them do it. So he went and checked it out, and here the one cylinder had no compression. He discovered they forgot to put the rings on the cylinder. So if you understand what cylinder piston rings are, you'll know how serious of a problem that is. So that's some of the things that Kenny personally deals with, and that's what you find a lot. The trucks, the big trucks, the long haul trucks, you never see them with just a driver. They always have a mechanic at least with them. And you'll see them along the road. You'll see vehicles along the road. You'll see a transmission on the ground, just on the shoulder of the road, sometimes right in the lane if they happen to stop there and they can't move them. I've seen engines out with a head off the engine laying on the ground. Just do things wherever they happen to be. Then a couple of miscellaneous pictures. If you read the sign, and look at this vehicle. For some reason, if you have a big, shiny, expensive black SUV, you're exempt from rules. And you see it with the driving. They'll blast you the police checkpoints, and they don't worry about even traffic lights if they can get through without getting hit. Anyways, and this driver evidently thought that the parking didn't apply to him, or that has to save it for him. I'm not sure. This is just one other this is actually kind of related to the signs, Dr. Jesus. Yeah, whatever that means. Here's a picture. This is our gate. Our fence along a road has a gate to drive through, another one for walking through. And this is a very common sight to see children hanging on the gate. They're not allowed to come in except at certain times. One of ours is there. Just noticed that actually. This was at the Elmina Slave Castle or the fort? Okay. Near the Elmina Slave Castle. It's actually kind of part of the castle. Some of the local homeschool, they call it the homeschool group. There's several American missionary families there that they all went to visit the slave castle. We got a picture of Jimmy and Anna. The sun was shining in their eyes. And this is my last picture. And this is one that my wife just quickly snapped here. It wasn't long ago, maybe a couple weeks before we left. I'm not sure when it was. This girl, this was just a play day, and she's about the age of Anna, our daughter, and her dad is, you remember the one I showed you, the girl with the backpack? I said her dad works for Paul Ministries and also attends church. This girl's another one of his daughters. She's a sister to the girl with the backpack. And this picture, the closer I look, the more details I see. You can see how they're holding hands there, they're running, they have roughly the same, at the same position with their running. And I want to leave this as a challenge to you, to accept friendships from whoever you have. Don't worry about the color. I know this year there's been a lot of things going on with race. Now, while I believe that a lot of it has been the media hyping it up, I know that there is some valid things with that. Children are brutally honest, and I think we have a lot. Jesus even talked about that. That we need to be like little children. And so this is, of all the pictures I have, I think this one is probably speaks the most and is the most, is very valuable, teaches everybody a lesson, no matter your age. Okay, that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I should have told you before I'd ask you for questions.
It's probably very densely populated over there, is it?
It is compared to here, yes. The other thing is everybody lives either in a city, a town, or a village. You don't have rural living. I'm not sure all the reasons for that. One is you won't get things like electricity, transportation can be a problem, and safety is also a big issue. So yes, it would be overall, it would be much more densely populated than here. The cities especially.
Communicate with the staff there, it's English?
Yeah. English is the official language. However, every area has different dialects they speak, but all of our staff knows very good English. And everybody knows at least some English. And there's some English that they use. Days of the week they use, numbers they use, they hardly even know it in the local language. They use English, which makes it very easy for us. The other problem it makes for us is that we can't learn the language. We know a few words, but we don't know much. We picked up a little bit, but everybody knows at least some English. The other thing is they're more than just proper nouns that they use for English. You'll hear them talking away in Fonte, the local language, and then you might hear last week or something like that. And they say, well, yeah, we know how to say last week in our language, but we're just used to say it in English and it's easier. So that's what they say. And when you hear them speaking, there's enough English in it that even if you don't know a single word of the local language, you can follow at least what they're talking about. Missing a lot of the details, of course.
Some of the Hershey candy factory, candy companies big in Ghana?
Yeah.
Any dealings with them?
No, but Ghana is, I think it's it's the second biggest in exporting cocoa beans. Cocoa beans are a big business there. And so companies like Hershey and Nestle and whoever else, a bunch of European chocolate companies all have, yes, they have big operations there. But no, I don't see that. We see the cocoa beans. In fact, some of our clients would be cocoa bean farmers. But we don't, with the chocolate companies directly, no.
How does the currency compare to the U.S.? And then secondly, your savings box, what's the average amount that they have now?
Okay, the currency, the exchange rate is about 5.8. CD is the name of it. It's not the letter C and the letter D, it's CEDI is the name of the currency. The exchange rate is about 5.8 to the dollar. So if you have 100 CDs, it's worth about $17, $18. So you're asking about the return on the savings.
Your average throughout your savings box.
Oh, the amount. Okay. It varies wildly, and it's hard to say. When a group, if we have a group of, say, 40 clients, they usually have about $2,000 to $3,000, which is an average of maybe $50 to $75 each. Now, of course, some are a lot more, some a lot less, but that would be the average, $50 to $75. That's about as close a number as I can give you. And to add to that a little bit, the loan amounts, and I was going to mention that and I missed it. We give out loan amounts varying from 200 CDs, which is about $35, up to 4,900, which is about $850. That's the largest that we give. So when we hand out the loans, it's somewhere in that range. The average size loan is around $100 to $150 dollars worth in their currency.
What for business can they start with that?
Most of our clients it'd be provisions for a little store or a roadside stand, to buy, to buy maybe some yams or something, and they'll sell yam chips or whatever else they can make from yams, or just something like that. They might buy palm oil so they can make soap, but it's mostly for provisions. Very little of it actually goes for equipment, almost all for the supplies, the stock, the inventory.
So do they keep borrowing from you, or do they get self-sufficient after a while?
A few do get self-sufficient, but usually as they go, the new clients are just allowed a small loan. And then each cycle, if they're faithful, it gets bigger and bigger. But eventually they do, along with the loan repayment, they're required to pay some extra for savings. We hold it, but it's their money. And so eventually they will build up enough savings after a few cycles that they have as much as they would take on a loan. And then they'll use that because then they're not paying interest on it. Yeah. So yes, a few do become self-sufficient. A lot of them stay in the program just because they like it. They like the camaraderie, they like the teaching. We hear a lot of testimonies how they appreciate the good, solid biblical teaching, and some will stay in it even if they don't need the money, just for that reason. Okay, if there are no more questions, I will close and thank you for your attention and keep serving the Lord where you are. God bless you.